integration between these two things is really mandatory.
Welcome to our masterclass series, Client Challenges and the Art of the Possible in Risk Compliance and Payments with Acuity, a leading firm in the financial crime and compliance payment space. I'm joined by Tom Golding and Pascal Lorenz from Acuity, each of whom have worked in the financial crime compliance area for 15 years. In this video, Tom and Pascal will discuss the changing focus of regulatory scrutiny and how organisations can demonstrate line of sight from policy to operations. Gentlemen, welcome. Tom, if I can start with you, what sort of changes do you see in the financial crime space at the moment?
So I think in the market there's some general drivers that we're seeing that, the market is still in its maturing phase, and also the compliance profession is one that is maturing.
Yeah.
But actually, if I was to pull out two, I think the focus by regulators, that real scrutiny on proving line of sight between regulation, policy and procedure is a really big driver at the moment. And I think that, coupled also with the focus on enforcing personal liability for people, and also acts, especially in the UK, around senior management regime, you've now got this clear accountability. So I think those are two very key points. I'd also say that the added complexity in this area is that regulation isn't steady state. It's not just the pace of regulatory change, although that's obviously a key factor. What we'd really call out is the nature and characteristic of that regulation is changing. It is more complex. It is more, in some areas, more narrative, allowing people to have to interpret what they're seeing.
Yeah.
And I think that adds that real kind of change in the market and how people are addressing that change.
That's great, thank you. And so, in terms of addressing it, what do you see as being the main challenges then for firms in the market in addressing this?
One of the main challenges is the actual ability of a company to, on a change of regulation, actually operationalise that change.
Okay.
And then get confidence that they've actually put that in and they've tested it, and they can see that that piece of regulation translated into policy and procedure now actually works. Okay. Now, the more manual that your systems are and processes are, the greater that you have actually as an operational lag. So the operational lag between the change to you having confidence in your business. And actually, nowadays, if you've got more personal liability, you as that accountable person are trying to actually minimise that operational lag, because clearly you don't want the lag to be there, and you've got to have confidence. And so the challenge actually is, how do you change that approach when I now need to deal with other functions who are supporting me in adhering to the policy, and I've got to have more trust and proof that that's actually the case. And I think in that area we're now seeing that real challenge where people are driving to have more control and more assurance solutions supporting their procedures.
So Pascal, if I'm a chief compliance officer and I want to achieve that line of sight in my business, what do I need to have in place?
Well, the challenge there is create solutions that implement that line of sight done from regulations to actual systems. So we need to show that the regulations are translated into policies, and that these policies are translated into operational procedures, which is where things really are described. And then how these procedures are then translated into the actual configuration of the systems.
So Pascal, can you give us an example then?
Yeah, sure. So if I am a chief compliance officer of a large global bank, and I have operations everywhere in the world, today I'm very concerned by the level of control and visibility I have over these operations, because a lot of things are actually done through manual processes. So what I actually would like is to replace the information I got from operations today, like an OK email from somewhere, by a dashboard which shows me my overall status of my compliance. So that's really what the compliance officer would like.
So what does that mean as a technology level?
Well, at technology level, that means that we have to add an additional level of control to the layer of control to the existing layers. So today, most of the solutions today have two layers. They have a data layer, which is reference data, customer data, transactions, all this. And then on top of that, they have an operational layer where most of the checks actually happen. And from a technology point of view, the idea is to add an additional layer there, which is an intelligent layer of control which analyzes all this and provides this information about what is happening everywhere in real time.
Okay. And so is there an equivalence between the sort of solutions and technology that regulators are looking at and the sort of solutions and technology that banks themselves, market participants, are looking at?
Yes, yeah, actually, it's interesting because there is a parallel to be made there. The regulator has actually the same issue one level up. So
Right.
while as a compliance officer I want to oversee all my bank everywhere, actually the regulator has the same issue overseeing all the banks.
Okay.
And what you see is that today regulators and FIUs are more interested actually to tap into the bank's data in order to have an analytical view on that. And on the other side, the banks are more and more interested to provide their data to the regulator in order to show that they do the right thing.
In summary then, how do you see this challenge being addressed?
Tom spoke about control and assurance. So the first thing is to add this assurance function on all the products that currently exist.
Yep.
And then the second important element there is a tight integration between tech and data. Used to be an advantage in the past, but today it's a real must, because if you look at all this, everything is driven by analytics and data. So integration between these two things is really mandatory.
That's great. Tom, Pascal, thank you very much.